Kazuya Kagami wakes up in class from a bad dream to discover that he is inadvertently groping classmate Chisato Chikaishi's breasts. After escaping her wrath, Kazuya goes to the roof where he takes comfort in his late mother's obi. Kazuya is attacked by a possessed wig and falls off the building, but is saved by his obi. From within the obi, a young girl, a Tsukumagami, emerges. They are met by the host of the wig. The Tsukumagami asks the host to sever their link with the wig, which the Tsukumagami calls an amisoji. However, the host and wig attack, and the Tsukumagami is forced to destroy the wig before disappearing. At home, Kazuya reflects on the day's events before falling asleep. After another nightmare, he wakes to find the Tsukumagami in his bed. After avoiding a confrontation with Kazuya's possessive sister Kasumi, the Tsukumagami introduces herself as Kiriha and that she the Tsukumagami of Kazuya's obi and that Kazuya is now her servant. Living with Kiriha is hard enough, but Kazuya also takes abuse from Chisato at school. Having forgotten to complete his homework, Chisato drags Kazuya to the library to finish it. While in the library, Chisato bashfully offers Kazuya to come to his house to help him study, but he turns her down. After Kazuya finishes, he encounters Kiriha while Chisato discovers that they are trapped in the library. During the attempt to break free, the library transforms into an alternate space and the books attack Kiriha. Kiriha realizes that Chisato is the host of the Amisoji and tells Kazuya to fulfill Chisato's desire. Kazuya asks Chisato if she would come to his house to tutor him, and the library returns to normal. At Kazuya's house, Chisato apologizes. However, Kiriha explains that it was not Chisato's fault, but that the Amisoji was created due to a substance called Mali-sun, and that such a high concentration was the fault of the local deity, Kakuri. Shiro is approached by Kokuyu, who mistakes him to be Kazuya. Hoping to be able to grope her boobs, he treats her for lunch at a nearby family restaurant, but he gets more than he bargained for when Kokuyu orders everything on the menu, leaving him with a huge tab. The next day, when Kazuya meets up with Osamu, he gets a flying kick from Shiro, who is apparently disappointed and green with envy as to what happened yesterday. Moments later, before recess, all of the students' lunches go missing. Then Kokuyu appears eating all of the lunches. She orders Kazuya to come with her, but Kiriha intervenes. After a brief confrontation, Kazuya and Chisato accompany Kokuyu to a local shrine, where another confrontation is waiting for Kiriha and Kazuya with Kakuri. As the fight between Kiriha and Kakuri continues, Kiriha uses up more and more power, reducing her to a chibi form. With Kiriha close to defeat, Kazuya has a vision and uses her true name to force her into obi form and wields her as a weapon against Kakuri. He almost defeats her, but finally has to accept the duty of Mali-sun cleaner as Kakuri gets hold of Kiriha and threatens to kill her. Suddenly, the string that holds her no mask snaps off, also reducing her into a chibi form. Kiriha, in a state of rage, suddenly roughs up on her by forcefully stripping her half naked, making Kakuri scream in agony. Kazuya, Chisato, and Kiriha leave the devastated shrine, and Kazuya and Kiriha talk while taking a bath. Kazuya is unable to reenact his fighting skills with the obi and is forced to undergo Kiriha's Spartan training that proves to be too much for him. While in the bath, Kiriha explains to Kazuya the finer details about Tsugumomo like herself. Meanwhile, Kakuri and Kaku do not have money to get the shrine fixed, which eventually collapses during a storm. They have to move their quarters to the park and are getting ridiculed by Kiriha, who happens to pass by. The next day, Kazuya is summoned by Tadataka, the school's student council president, who was the host of the Amisoji they encountered in episode 1, who asks him and Kiriha to investigate a series of mysterious Amisoji manifestations that occur with the Tabletop RPG Association, with lone member Nakajima the culprit. As they go through the hallway to confront Nakajima, they are joined by Osamu. Nakajima orders a minotaur he created by drawing it on an Amisoji notepad to attack them, intending to force Tadataka to sanction the RPG Association as an official club. Unable to battle the Minotaur Kazuya, Kiriha and the rest can only retreat and manage to outsmart Nakajima, but he does not give up until his final attempt fails when Osamu switches his Amisoji notepad with his. After the encounter, the group decides to dispose of the Amisoji notepad, but before it can be done, Osamu uses it to draw an adult version of Kiriha in her underwear, where Kazuya hoped it would be nicer than Kiriha, but gets a nasty beating from her. A student confesses to Chisato and she rejects him. Hosting an Amisoji, he turns the school into a dating sim gal game, forcing Kazuya to compete with him in the game for Chisato's affection. However, not everything goes as planned, and Chisato hates Kazuya even more. Kazuya asks Osanai to help him win Chisato's affection, and Osanai reveals that there is a glitch that can help Kazuya win the game. Hiroshi is about to ask Chisato out under the cherry tree, but Kazuya interrupts him before he finishes. Chisato asks Kazuya what he wants. Kazuya takes 2 dolls out of his backpack and tells her that he found them after looking for them. Then he tells her he wants to play house with her. Chisato's affection is raised to the maximum, and she remembers the time she used to play house with Kazuya in kindergarten. Kazuya and Chisato go to nurse office and decide to rest. Meanwhile, Kiriha and Osanai ask Hiroshi where the Amisoji is, and he tells them it is a CD in the computer lab. Osanai asks, surprised, what version of the game it is. It turns out to be the game's X-rated version. In the nurse office, Kazuya wakes up tied to the bed. Osanai and Hiroshi rush to the computer lab and manage to destroy the Amisoji. Kiriha rushed to the nurse office and was surprised by what she saw. After encountering a big Molly-san manifestation from school, Kiriha, in her usual temper fit, confronted Kakuri in a series of torturous wrestling locks where she expresses her anger over the latter's misinformation about the level of Molly-san that Kazuya should encounter. Thought Kokuyo is around, she is unable to provide support since she has to report for work in order to pay off repairs and other debts that their shrine owes. The torture only stopped when Kazuya promises to buy Kiriha some pudding. While waiting for Kazuya, Kiriha and Kakuri had a little friendly chat while building a sand dam, until a duo of rowdy boys ruin it. That caused Kiriha to go after them until Kazuya arrives and took both of them home to bathe. While in the bath, the two girls continued their little spat that lasted until both passed out from heat exhaustion, after which Kakuri went home to the park, while Kazuya and Kiriha settled down for dinner. After dinner, Kazuya plans to take some of his large portion left over for Kiriha, only to learn that her existence was already known on the day she takes on a human form. More so as Kazuya's father, who knew her ever since he was courting his mother way back in high school, whom is Kiriha's master during that time, where she always give him a rough time. Kazuya has decided to bring some pudding to Kakuri only to find their temporary shire demolished, after some parent complained to the city official about being a safety hazard to children. Kiriha took pity by letting them stay at Kazuya's house, where at first it was met with opposition from Kazuya's sister and father, but later on allowed them, when Kiriha blackmails Kazuya's father about the embarrassing love letter he was writing to Kazuya's mother when they were teenagers at that time. On the next day, Kiriha, together with Kakuri and Kazuya, went to the Kanera Shrine in order to borrow money from Taguri in order to purchase some Molly-san forecast, but on a condition that they have to play her version of cards where every wrong move has a corresponding consequence, where much to Kiriha and Kakuri's chagrin, have to endure the entire game with a series of perverted acts by Taguri, with the exemption of Kazuya, since the game can only be played by the girls. The game ends where they garner about 175,000 yen. 2 stories within one episode. The first follows the exploits of the Kagami household on an average day with no Molly-san cleansing. Kazuya goes shopping with Kiriha and Kakuri, getting them pudding and Mizuyo-kan for their desserts that night, with Kazuya and Kiriha doing a mock battle with Kakuri. Unable to act fast enough has given Kakuri an upper hand, thus losing to her, which infuriates Kiriha. As punishment, she had Kazuya do 100 practice weave, much to his chagrin. Next day in school, Kazuya together with Chisato and Osamu were summoned by Tadataka, who suffered from baldness due to his Molly-san atonement, to look into a string of haunting attacks that involves a deceased student named Nego Eiko, who died 2 years ago from an apparent suicide. During their investigation, they encountered Nanakai Nanako, who was a member of the school's newspaper club, who was also investigating the same case. They had a brief encounter with Nego Eiko after she tries to attack Kozukabe in the changing room. After the brief encounter, Kozukabe has told them about Nego Eiko's history with the Nishina Yuichi fan club as to how things had turned sour between her and with the group. They later on learned that Nanakai Nanako is Nego Eiko's sister, and fearing that Murasaki, one of the members of Eiko's club, would be next to be attacked, Both Kazuya and Kira sprung into action in order to save Murasaki from Nanako, where they also learned that Eiko is a Kamioni in a lock of hair that Nanako has been using to find out the truth behind Eiko's suicide. It was also revealed that Murasaki had hid the letter after Eiko had committed suicide, fearing that it may contain information that would put the blame on the group. However, as she gives the letter to Nanako, she later finds out that Eiko was infected by an Amasoji growth in her chest, and she killed herself in order to protect Nanako from the Amasoji's influence. After Nanako had finished reading the letter and finding out the truth, both Kazuya and Kira have to face the Kamioni, which they had a lot of difficulty, but they did destroy it. In the last few moments of the Suinao Sumareji, a Mali Sun cleanser, has appeared while Kiriha is pounding Kazuya in anger when Kazuya refuses to retreat it after battling the Kamioni. Kazuya and Kiriha are challenged and attacked at school by Suinao Sumareji, who holds a vendetta against Kazuya's mother and her katana Kotetsu. Later, Kiriha tries to comfort Kazuya when he refuses to get up from the futon, when she suddenly turns back to her normal grown form. They are caught in an embarrassing position when Kasumi and Kakuri enter the room. Kazuya has a dream where he talks about his relationship with Kiriha to his mother, Kanaka. The next day, he has a duel with Suinao, organized by Kakuri, to determine who will be Kamioka's Malice and Cleanser. During the duel with Suinao and Kotetsu, Kiriha and Kazuya enter a state of divine possession, greatly increasing their power. Afterwards at home, Kakuri takes care of an exhausted Kazuya, and Kiriha manipulates her into bathing him. Suinao's mother states that she cannot become the head of the Sumareji family unless she marries the man who defeated her. Kiriha joins the school where Kazuya goes under the name Obina Kiriha.